Hello, Perl class. This week we're going to talk about control structures, the for each loop, other loops, logical operators, graph and map. We're going to go through the class notes together, and here it is, control structures. First, an example of the great for each loop. I call it the great because it most likely is the most favorite construct loop for Perl programmers. It's very intuitive and you see it everywhere. So first we're going to create an array and we're going to populate it with numbers from 1 to 10. Here's our function for each. In the parentheses you simply supply a list, in this case an array, and you just give the name of the array. In between you are intercepting the data coming one at a time, each item coming through the array here. You're intercepting each item with a variable of your choice, in this case item, and we're simply going to print the item in the first argument and followed by a string. And here we go. Let's give that a try. Now remember that to run this it's usually best to keep this window open, just save the data and not exit, so you keep your cursor in the right place, and then use another window here to run it. Here it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a return character after each. Number 2, item, which is of course anything you want to call it, right? Is an actual item in the array, meaning this variable points to an actual element in this array. And if you modify this variable, no matter what it's called, it will update the array, the element in the array itself. So it is a destructive process. For instance, we're going to use item here to intercept every element from the array. And now if you multiply item by 2, it will take item and multiply by 2. It will actually change that item in the array. So let's go see if that's the case. We should have multiplied everything by 2, and here it is. The array now contains 2, 4, 6, 8, and so forth. Number 3, the for each works with any list. So obviously in the parentheses, since a list is nothing but an array, we can also produce a list directly. Let's skip that one. Number 4, there's a special variable, we may have run across that earlier. It's called the $_ It's a special variable, and it's a default control variable or argument for many functions. So if we don't provide, if data is being passed on, and we don't supply a variable to capture that, Perl will capture that data automatically in the special variable $_. And before we do that, here's a little aside here. This is interesting. If you print an array inside of double quotes, as we are doing here, the print statement will use spaces, as you've seen. But interestingly, if you print the array by itself, not inside of a double quoted string, then you will get no spaces. This is just interesting to note. Let's try that out. And here it is in the quotes with a space in between, and this prints just like a hash, doesn't it? No spaces. Number 5. So here we go. If we don't specify a scalar variable, the special variable is assumed. So here we are passing this list of strings here, separated by comma. And you notice that we don't specify a variable here, in which case Perl will put this data into the special variable. Here we're printing a space, and here we're printing even nothing. So it looks like. So we don't provide a variable, so Perl will assume $_ underscore. And let's see here. It looks like it's printing it once, and then we're going to print a return, and then we're going to print what? Looks like we're printing again whatever may be left over, and then we do a for each loop here, and we're going to print specifically this time the $sign underscore. So let's see what happens. You should print this list twice, right? Yes, so here it is, printed once, return character, and now we're printing this list, this time without any spaces or returns. 6. A function grep. You may be familiar with the grep function in Linux or Unix, right? In Perl we have something similar, and this is to help us understand what it does. We can simulate the grep function with a for each loop. We provided a list, and what the grep function does, it puts the list through a condition and only filters the data which satisfies the condition. So here we have a condition, if condition, and it's a push, right? We're taking whatever element is coming out of the list, and we're pushing that into a new array if it meets the condition. And the grep function itself, right here, has two arguments. The first one is that condition, and the second argument is the list itself. So the list is passing information to the condition, and grep will be forwarding that information if it meets the condition. An example here, we're going to take the grep function. Our condition is, of course, the $sign underscore is going to be less than 6, and the numbers are going to be coming through one at a time, 1 to 10, and as long as they're still under 6, then grep is going to push that information to its left into a new array called low numbers, and then we're going to print it. And here are those numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and nothing greater than that will come through. Number 7, the brother-sister function of grep is map. I don't use it. I don't use these a lot, but if you're going to work seriously in Perl, you'll notice a lot of code using map and grep. The serious Perl programmers love those two functions and use them in all kinds of ways. If you put both of those together, you can practically do anything you want. It's very concise and very powerful. The map works similarly, except this time instead of having a condition, the map provides a function. So instead of filtering the data, it's going to manipulate the data somehow. The list is still on the right. It's going to go through this function. The numbers will be modified, and the map will pass that to a new list. Here's the example. We're going to take numbers 1 to 10, and we're going to process them through this function, which is in this case just very simple. Multiply every item by 2, and the map will create this new list, and we're going to print the list. And here it is. All the numbers have been doubled. And you can also print this directly. You don't have to put that necessarily in an array if you simply mean to get the information out. Okay, this, and what is this? This is an exponent, right? Star star. And we're going to map still produces these values, and the print statement will take those one at a time and print them. Okay, let's leave that one off topic, but mostly useful for using system commands. So let's talk about that for a minute. You can print the content of your directory from Perl, simply by using these brackets and of course the asterisk which prints everything. And that list is going to go into note this is another, this is the equivalent of the dollar sign underscore for the list. So we have dollar sign underscore and we have an @ underscore. We'll run into that one later. For now, let's see what we have in my directory here. uh Sorry, it looks like I may have forgotten to take an exit here. Okay, and the directory is chapter 3PL, chapter 2, and so forth. I have all these. It's just a crude printout, right, of course, since the array is doing the printout. Quick format of an array printout. This is, oh yes, this is interesting. Okay, we can use join. Here's another function that we might as well get familiarized with. Two functions, I mean two arguments. The first one is, what would you like to, it's going to take an array, which is the second argument, of course, and join, meaning it's going to create a string out of the array, and every element in the string will be separated by some character, which we supply in the first argument. So in this case, we're saying take every argument, put them in the string, but separate each element by a return character. So here's the join. The join again, of course, will supply the string that it has put together, and we're going to say print an array join. I'm not sure why we have all these extra semicolons here. That's not very pretty. So let's print this out. And remember, join will turn an array into a string. Very useful. And now the directory looks better. Print in two columns with map and the conditional operator. Let me skip this. It's an interesting little, we'll see if we have time for this. These videos get awfully long. But this is just for fun. And it also talks about this important statement. This is an if statement on one line, and it comes in very handy sometimes. The way it works is an old if statement left over from older languages. We have a condition, and then we have a dollar sign. Following the double sign is whatever you want to happen if the condition is true, and then you have a colon, and anything after this character will be executed if that condition is false. So this is a one-line if statement, and believe it or not, it's still used a lot, and it will come in handy. Let me skip this for now, but you ought to take a look at this, see if you can figure it out. We can talk about it on the discussion board if you have questions on that. Change directory. We have these commands, of course. You use these whenever you can use system commands, of course, but those are more stable, especially if you're going to port your code to the DOS world. So you can say change directory, and you know what that would be. Of course, we would go back one level, and then we can go back and look at the directory, and we're going to use a join function and print it out. You can change directory again. This time we're going to go back in the directory from which we just came, and we're going to print that again. You can use a system command now, of course. The system function will turn your Perl into any shell command that you need. In this case, copy chapter 4PL to test2 is what we're going to do. Let's see, test2 chapter, let me copy this and I'll probably need to remove it to make sure it does not exist. And let's comment this one out, save. Over here, let's list here, and here's a test. Yes, so let's remove that one. So it's no longer here, correct? Test chapter 4. Well, that one's here. Let me see. Remove. Oh, this is test 2. Is no longer here. Okay, so we're in good shape. Run, and we can see back to the Perl, right? And we can see we went back one directory and printed all the things I had in my root account, and we now have test 2. I don't see it yet. Let's do a list. Yes, test 2 has been created. Okay. That's it on that topic. There's one more important topic I would like to make part of this video. Counting frequencies of survey results. Okay, the way to tally values with a hash is demonstrated here. Very important. Be sure to understand this fully. We will be using next week. And it's not only for the fact of doing an exercise, but counting frequencies is something we have to do all the time. And hashes work very well for that purpose. So you need to understand this very cryptic little code here. It's a very simple for each loop, which will in one line of code, you will know exactly how many ones and how many twos we have in this list. And so take a look at this, make sure that it makes sense. We're doing a for each here, and we're going to be using the simple special variable. Now this hash is created on the fly, and notice that we are creating a key, right? A key of every one of these as they are coming down the pike. And how many keys do you think we're going to end up with? Well, obviously only 2. There's only two possible numbers here. And so the first time this runs, the number 1 key will be created, and notice what's happening to the content of that key is being incremented. The second item is going to create a new key called 2, and it's going to increment the content of that. Now if you don't initialize a hash and you increment the content, Perl will automatically assume a 0 and increment it to a 1. Next time this key comes up, it already exists, right? But it's going to take whatever content and usually replace it. But now we're going to increment it again. So the former 1 is now going to turn into a 2. And every time another key of 1 is going to hit the location of that memory cell, the content will be incremented. And now we have 2 keys, 1 and 2, and by the time this for each loop is through, you will end up with exactly how many times that key has been hit. And here we're going to sort by keys, which is going to be handy, right? And let's see how that looks like. And here it is. The keys are sorted, 1 and 2. Now let's go split that up a little bit. We can show the frequency along with each key. So we're going to say for each, and we're going to sort the keys as usual from the hash. And now we're going to print, remember the X operator? We're going to print as many asterisks as it takes for how many 1s and 2s we had. So first we're going to have the key 1, right, coming through the special variable, and we're going to look at the content of that key 1, and that will multiply the X operator, the asterisk. And when that's done, we're going to print a return. Then the second key is going to be coming down the pike, and the content of that second key will act on the X operator and give us as many asterisks as we need. So let's give that one a shot. And here are the asterisks. The ones went out. Next, let's make that better yet. We can add the key to the frequency. So we're going to say same thing, the for each. We're going to print this time the key, because the key will be coming through first, right? So we print the key, then we print the tab key, then we go ahead and print the number of asterisks. Next, we can even include a label, and this is something else that's done very frequently. Another great use for the hash. We're going to call this key. We're going to make a new hash called label, right? You could call it anything. And that label is going to have the word yes for the 1, and for a 2, we're going to associate the key 2 to a no. So now instead of having just 1 and 2, we can easily give our keys a label. So for each, we're going to print first the content of this key in the label hash. So now the key 1 coming down here is going to bring them the value yes, and same thing. Otherwise, still we're going to print the number of asterisks. Let's see what else. Well, this is it for now. Actually, that will be the nicest way we print that. So first we were printing just the keys, right? And now we can replace those keys by actual values. The next and last. This is our last quick topic here. Typical languages have you can get out of loops, and we have the next command, which allows you to skip the rest of the code in a block if we meet a condition. So next will simply go to the next item in the array. Then we have last. We can also get out of the for each loop entirely if we meet a certain condition, and that will do it. I'll just go this quickly. Rewrite the above next with grep and map. I'm sorry. And I'll let you go through those on your own. So anything else important in here? Bare blocks. You can also, this is not extremely important, but just be aware that you can also have a loop in a bare block. What's going on here? We're expecting an entry if the magic is 0. This is interesting. Yeah, magic equals 0. This is a condition, basically. Is it equal to 0? Or if this is not true, then the or will go on to the next line here, which says print, not quite, and redo. And these have to be, now this is the and, as you have read in your chapter, and for an and to work, both have to be true. And a print command will always return true, and then redo, of course, is just a command to perform, and is going to redo the block. This is just an interesting way to do this. More popular is the die function, the use of the or for a die function, which is a way to get out if something goes wrong. And in a denominator, the denominator, as you know, should never be 0. So a nice way to take care of that is using these lines here. You can say if the denominator is not equal to 0, if it's true, then it will keep on going. But if it is equal to 0, then the OR is going to be implemented and the die function is going to take over and terminate the program. Okay, thank you very much. This completes this lesson.